Never waste your words on ears that weren't built to hear you. Have you ever tried explaining yourself to someone who was never listening in the first place? They nod, they interrupt, they spin your truth into something you never said. Not to understand, but to defend their small version of reality. It's like shouting into a canyon and waiting for the rocks to argue back. No matter how clearly you speak, some people are already committed to misunderstanding you. You could give them logic, emotion, evidence, but if their mind is locked shut, your words are just noise. Explaining yourself to the wrong people is like pouring water into a cracked glass. No matter how much you give, it always leaks. Here's the harsh truth. Some minds are too small to hold your truth. And when you stop explaining yourself, that's when the power shifts. Silence becomes your sword. Your peace becomes your rebellion. Because while they crave the argument, you choose your elevation. They feed on reaction, but you starve their control. You don't need to fight. You don't need to prove. You just need to know. Your worth speaks louder than any explanation. Stay with me, because what's coming next will shift the way you handle every draining conversation from now on. And if this already hit home, comment below. I know my worth. Number 1. Trying to paint the sky for someone staring at the ground. Have you ever noticed what happens when you share a dream with the wrong person? A new idea, a personal decision, something that took courage and clarity to pursue, only to be met with a smirk, a raised eyebrow, or worse, silence soaked in sarcasm. It's like trying to show someone the stars, but they're too busy staring at the dirt to look up. You speak with passion, they respond with doubt. You bring truth, they bring resistance. Why? Because small minds don't want to grow. They want comfort. And your evolution threatens that comfort. It doesn't matter how carefully you explain your thinking or how much logic you wrap around your words. If they've already made up their mind, your clarity becomes invisible. The problem isn't your voice, it's their lens. Some people don't hear you because they aren't listening. They're waiting to defend the tiny walls of their belief system. And the moment you try to stretch their mind, it fights back. Here's the lie we've been sold, that if you explain yourself clearly enough, people will understand. But here's the truth. Explanation doesn't work on closed hearts. You cannot plant roses in concrete and expect them to bloom. Some minds are like locked rooms. They've thrown away the key, and now they expect you to break in just to be heard. This is where ancient wisdom speaks louder than any argument. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." And that's the pivot. When you live your truth instead of debating it, you stop chasing validation and start embodying strength. I remember a guy, let's call him Daniel. He decided to take control of his life. Woke up early, hit the gym, started building his own business. He wasn't showing off, he was just excited to share. But when he talked to his old friends, the energy changed. Laughter, snide comments. "So you think you're too good for us now?" "Relax, man, life's not that serious." Daniel tried to explain. He told them how much better he felt, how he finally felt alive. But they didn't want to hear it. Not because it didn't make sense, because it did. And that's what made it uncomfortable. If they accepted what he said, they'd have to confront their own laziness. And change for them wasn't just scary, it was insulting. So Daniel stopped explaining. He let his silence say what words never could. He built his business. He transformed his life. And over time, the same people who once mocked him started asking him for advice. Here's what you must understand. Some people will only understand your value when your absence echoes louder than your words ever did. Stop pouring gold into ears that can't hear its worth. You don't owe them a single justification. Not for your growth. Not for your peace. Not for your glow-up. Let your discipline do the talking. Let your results be the debate. And let your peace be the proof. Because the wise don't argue with the blind. They just keep walking toward the light. Number 2, don't cast pearls before swine. They'll never know the value. There's a special kind of frustration that comes when you try to explain your path to people whose minds were never open to begin with. You speak from the heart, hoping to be understood, maybe even supported. But instead of encouragement, you're met with rolled eyes, passive-aggressive jokes, or silence so cold it burns. It doesn't matter how honest or thoughtful you are. If someone is more committed to defending their comfort zone than growing beyond it, your words are wasted air. You may wonder, why don't they get it? Why do they twist my words or downplay my journey? Because understanding you would mean questioning themselves, and for small-minded people, that's terrifying. It's not that your message is unclear, it's that their ego won't allow them to hear it. Some people aren't listening to understand, they're waiting to respond, to argue, to protect the tiny bubble of beliefs they've mistaken for truth. Think of it like trying to light a fire in the rain. No matter how many sparks you strike, the wood is too wet to burn. Their mind is soaked in doubt, insecurity, and fear. And instead of drying off and listening, they'd rather blame the match. Marcus Aurelius nailed it. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. That's not just philosophy, that's your power move. Don't waste your strength trying to be understood by people who are only watching to find a flaw. Let them talk. Let them assume. Let them sit in judgment. You just keep building. There was a guy I knew, Daniel, real quiet, real focused. Started waking up early, running before sunrise, reading philosophy, building his own business. You'd think people around him would be inspired, right? Instead, they mocked him. What? You think you're better than us now? Relax. Life isn't that deep. At first, he tried to explain, told them how good it felt to take control of his life, that he wasn't trying to be better than anyone, just better than he was yesterday. But it didn't matter. They laughed. And deep down, he realized they weren't laughing at him. They were laughing at the version of themselves they were too scared to become. Because if his progress was real, it meant theirs was possible. And that was too heavy, too inconvenient. So they rejected him, not because they couldn't understand, but because they did. And that understanding made them uncomfortable. So Daniel stopped explaining, and something wild happened. The mockery died down. The noise faded. And years later, those same friends started asking him how he did it. So ask yourself this: is your peace worth their approval? Is your growth worth their permission? The wise already know the answer. You don't owe them clarity. You don't owe them proof, just results, just presence, just the quiet thunder of someone who chose evolution over validation. Protect your energy, live your truth, and let your success make the loudest statement of all. If this spoke to you, hit like, subscribe, and comment, I rise above small minds. Number 3, don't wrestle with pigs. You both get dirty and they enjoy it. Have you ever tried to clear up a misunderstanding only to realize they were never confused? They were just waiting for you to speak so they could twist your words. You thought, maybe if I explain better, they'll get it. So you talked, clarified, broke it down with logic. And still, they took your words and weaponized them. They bent your truth, spun your meaning, and flipped the story until you found yourself defending something you never even said. That's not miscommunication. That's manipulation. This is the trap so many fall into, believing that more explanation equals more understanding. But with the wrong people, the more you speak, the more you bleed. Because their goal isn't to understand you, their goal is control. And your words, that's the ammo they're looking for. Every sentence becomes a tool in their hands, not to build a bridge, but to tear one down and blame you for it. You might be asking, why would someone do that? What do they get out of it? The answer is simple: power. Some people twist your words not because they're confused, but because keeping you on the defensive makes them feel strong. It's a game, and the moment you feel the need to explain yourself over and over, you've already stepped onto their board. Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "When someone is properly grounded in life, they do not waste time defending their honor." That's the key. The moment you stop needing to defend your name, your story, or your soul to someone committed to misunderstanding you, you free yourself. You stop giving them the satisfaction of watching you squirm. Let me tell you about someone who learned this the hard way. Sophia, a brilliant woman, soft-spoken but sharp. She worked with someone who had a strange habit. Everything she said was turned into poison. If she suggested an improvement, he'd report it as, "Sophia thinks we're incompetent." If she offered help, it became, "Sophia wants to control everything." At first, she kept clarifying, correcting, trying to fix the false image. But the more she explained, the deeper the trap became. Every word was twisted into something ugly. Then, one day, she stopped. No more corrections, no more clarifications, just quiet strength. She let them talk, and while they dug themselves deeper into drama, she stayed above it. And guess what? Without her reactions to feed on, his narrative collapsed. People started to see the truth without her ever having to defend it. So what should you do? First, recognize the trap. If they keep twisting your words, it's not a misunderstanding, it's a strategy. Second, don't over-explain. You owe no endless speeches to people who don't listen with an open heart. And finally, hold the line with silence. Let them waste their energy while you preserve yours. Because the truth has legs, it walks on its own, even when lies scream louder. Stay calm, stay rooted. Let your peace shout what your words no longer need to say. Number 4. If you're done wasting your breath on people who twist your truth, like this video, share it with someone who needs this reminder, and subscribe for more powerful Stoic wisdom to protect your peace and sharpen your mind. Drop a comment below. My silence is my strength. Let them talk. You've got nothing to prove and everything to build. Number 4. Don't feed the trolls. They starve without your energy. Ever found yourself stuck in a conversation that felt like quicksand? You stepped in with good intentions, shared an idea, a viewpoint, maybe even something deeply personal, and before you knew it, you were knee-deep in circular arguments, defensiveness, and cheap shots. It wasn't a conversation, it was a trap. One designed not to build, but to break. You walked in thinking it was a dialogue, but it was just bait. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Some people don't argue to understand. They argue to drain. You might wonder, but if I don't defend my view, don't I look weak? Don't I lose? The moment you refuse to engage in their chaos, you win. See, when you argue with someone who's not seeking truth, you're not in a discussion, you're in a performance. And the audience, their ego. You're not educating them, you're entertaining them. And every time you raise your voice, they feed on it. Every time you try to prove your point, they twist it just enough to make you doubt your own clarity. Zeno of Citium, founder of Stoicism, once said, "Better to trip with the feet than with the tongue." Translation: it's better to stumble forward in your purpose than waste time trying to outtalk someone who only hears themselves. The wise don't waste oxygen trying to convince people who have no interest in evolving. They know when a debate becomes a distraction. They know when silence is smarter than strategy. Let me tell you about Jason. Smart guy, calm energy, always looking to grow. He had a co-worker who loved to argue. No matter what Jason said, work ideas, personal goals, life improvements, this guy would poke holes. Not with facts, but with sarcasm and deflections. What about this? Yeah, but did you think of that? Jason tried to hold the high ground. He'd explain, justify, even back up his thoughts with examples. But the guy wasn't listening. He was poking the bear because watching Jason react was more fun than actually hearing him. It took Jason months to realize this wasn't a misunderstanding. This was entertainment. So one day, he stopped performing. Short, calm replies, no emotional reactions, no drawn-out debates. And just like that, the game stopped. Without Jason's energy to feed on, the fire had no fuel. His silence became his shield. His detachment became his power. So here's your blueprint. The next time someone tries to bait you into defending your perspective over and over, pause and ask yourself, is this a conversation or a performance? Am I here to speak my truth, or just to be their emotional snack? Because the wise don't argue with noise, they rise above it. And the strongest move you can make is often no move at all. Not every opinion deserves your reply. Not every comment deserves your time. And not every battle is yours to fight. Let them argue with themselves. Let them twist in the wind of their own noise. You've got peace to protect and purpose to fulfill. If this hit home, make sure to like the video, subscribe for more Stoic strength, and share it with someone who gives too much of their energy to people who don't deserve it. And drop a comment below. I don't argue with noise. Let them talk. You're done performing. Number 5. Don't let someone else's fear become your forecast. Have you ever shared a dream so big it scared you a little, only to have someone shoot it down before it even had a chance to breathe? You tell them about your business idea, your bold plan, your next level vision, expecting support, or maybe even a little excitement. But instead, you get a raised eyebrow, a doubtful look, and lines like, "That's really hard, you know." Most people fail at that. You sure you're ready for something that risky? At first, it might sound like concern, but look deeper and you'll see it for what it really is: projection. You're not hearing your fears, you're hearing theirs. This is one of the most subtle yet toxic forms of limitation. People don't always say, "You can't." Sometimes they just keep telling you all the ways it might go wrong. But make no mistake, the mirror they're holding up isn't showing your limits. It's showing their own. And they want you to believe in those limits too. Because if you break free, it forces them to confront why they never did. You might be asking, but what if they're right? What if I fail? Here's the truth. Every dream worth chasing comes with risk. But those who've never dared to leap will always make flying sound like falling. Small minds can't carry big visions. People who never dared to climb will always tell you the mountain is too steep. Marcus Aurelius once said, "A man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions." If someone values safety, comfort, and staying in the known, they'll never understand someone who chooses challenge, risk, and growth. They're judging your future through the lens of their own fears. And if you listen too closely, you'll start seeing your vision through their blurry glasses. Let me tell you about Alex. He had this fire in his belly to build his own business. He was ready. He had a plan, some savings, and a whole lot of heart. But when he shared his dream with friends, they weren't excited. They were cautious. Most businesses fail. You'll lose everything. That's too much pressure. And for a moment, he started to doubt. But then it hit him. None of them had ever even tried. They weren't speaking from wisdom. They were speaking from fear. So Alex stopped asking for permission. He built anyway, fumbled, failed, learned, adapted, and succeeded. And the best part? Some of those same people who once doubted him came back and said, "I always knew you had it in you." So here's what you need to know. Not everyone deserves access to your vision. Don't give people with small courage front row seats to your greatness. If their words shrink your ambition, walk away. If their advice feels more like fear in disguise, ignore it. Because someone else's fear should never become the forecast for your future. You don't need their approval. You don't need their belief. You just need your own. Protect your dreams like sacred ground. Water them with action. Shield them from doubt. And when they bloom, let the results speak for you. Number 6. You can't teach a wall to listen, so stop talking to it. There comes a moment when you realize you're not being misunderstood by accident. You're being misunderstood on purpose. You've been calm, clear, patient. You explained your point not once, not twice, but again and again, only to watch them twist your words, assign bad intentions, and somehow turn the truth into an attack. And you wonder, why do they keep doing this? What am I doing wrong? But here's the hard truth. You're not the problem. They are committed to misunderstanding you, because misunderstanding you gives them power. See, some people don't want resolution. They want control. They want to drag you into arguments, not to find the truth, but to trap you in their drama. They play the victim. They flip the script. They distort your intentions until you're left trying to defend a version of yourself that doesn't even exist. It's not a conversation, it's a setup. And the more you explain, the deeper you fall. The more you try to clarify, the more they manipulate your words. It's emotional quicksand. The harder you fight to be understood, the faster you sink. But here's what Stoic wisdom reminds us. You don't owe clarity to those who twist it. Seneca once said, "He who indulges in empty fears earns himself real fears." Translation: the more you stress over how others perceive you, the more power you hand over. And when someone's perception is poisoned by ego, no explanation in the world will ever cleanse it. Let me tell you about Natalie. Fierce heart, soft voice. She had a family member who turned every conversation into a war zone. If Natalie expressed a boundary, suddenly she was selfish. If she shared an opinion, now she was attacking. No matter how gentle she was, it never mattered. This relative didn't want understanding. They wanted conflict dressed up as concern. At first, Natalie tried everything: long texts, careful conversations, emotional transparency. Nothing worked. Because the issue wasn't confusion, it was control. Then something clicked. Natalie stopped explaining. No more emotional essays. No more apologies for things she never did. Just calm, short replies. And when the drama flared up, she walked away. And just like that, the chaos started crumbling. Because without her energy to feed on, their power disappeared. So what do you do when someone refuses to see you clearly? First, recognize their game. This isn't confusion. It's a tactic. They thrive on reaction. Second, protect your energy. You don't need to spend your soul proving your innocence to someone who enjoys painting you as the villain. And finally, walk away with dignity. Not in anger, not in spite, but in power. Because when someone is determined to misunderstand you, the most powerful thing you can do is let them. Let them twist. Let them assume. Let them run circles in their own mind. Because your peace is not up for debate. You don't need their approval to be at peace with your truth. And once you stop trying to be understood by those who choose blindness, you finally see clearly. If this spoke to your soul, like, share, and subscribe for more truth that protects your peace. And drop a comment below. Let them misunderstand me. I choose peace. Because silence is not surrender. Sometimes it's strategy.